Mark goes to the movies. Mark goes to the movies. Mark goes to the movies. Long kick shout. Mark goes to the movies. Mark goes to the movies. Mark goes to the movies. Mark goes to the movies.
This is a goose. You listen to Mark Goes to the Movies. Huh? Maybe.
Hey guys, welcome to Mark Goes to the Movies. Not about the movies today, it's about Mark, so half true, I guess. But yeah, so I wanted to share some stories because I'm telling my co-supervisor Joe some stuff, and I don't know if he I'm sure he does not call me a liar, but some of it is kind of crazy. But I wanted to stick to the front half of my life and just thinking about Tales of a Trip coming to Shutter on May 1st. That's pretty cool. Um but yeah, it's yeah, I just want to put together some stories. So I grew up so I was born in Centerville, Illinois. Southern Illinois, just call it St. Louis area. Centerville and then Center Hospital. I think I lived in Centerville for a little bit and then we moved to Cahokia. My grandpa Marvin had a couple houses. This is back in the 90s, so you grew up. He had a couple houses. And he let my parents live rent free in one, which is odd because they sit there and gave me so much shit when I was early 20s. And have dad give me a house to live in. A little unfair. But yeah, it's like I grew up in the Tin Helen Court, Cahokia. I would spend my time bouncing around between my biological father, Mark Powell, another Mark, and my mom. They both lived in Cahokia, though. I don't know. So yeah, they weren't really close. It was a little bit far away. There was some space there for sure. And because we eventually figured, my parents would never, my mom would never tell me where I lived. First of all, when I see my parents, my stepdad was not my parent. He was a piece of shit, for one. He is an absolute sack of garbage. And yeah, he sucks. So fuck that guy. But yeah, they go back and forth. So I found my biological dad's house because the house next to that house it had one of those. It was a basement. That's it. There was no house on top of it. It was just a basement. I remember going over there a couple times, and yeah, my biological dad also not a good person. He I remember he stole bicycles and would piece them together, and that's how I got my first mongoose. That's how I know what a mongoose is. Really into the BMX stuff as a kid because my biological dad would steal bikes and he was piecing them together and he would paint them and then spray paint them. And he's not again. He's also a piece of garbage. That's why I have not seen that man in God, this is old now. 16 years. I haven't seen him since I moved up here. I'm gonna be 37, so 17 years. I think I was 20 when I moved up here. So yeah, it's don't have a man either. No father. Father of none. But they he sat there and yeah, so I remember he was like one of those lawyer chasers where like he would sue places a lot, right? He'd be like, I remember one time he had it was one of those bop it things, the punching things that you got from Big Lots. He was suing Big Lots because there was a cockroach in the blowhole thing. And he bit into it. I don't know if you ever won. I don't know if you ever. They lived off the government. They had Section 8 housing. They had food stamps, I'm sure. And my grandpa Joe didn't work, and my biological dad didn't work as he's illiterate. Piece of garbage, like I said. They both had back problems, and you can't see me do quotations. But yeah, they had back problems, so they couldn't work. So they got a check. And then my grandma Cheryl, I only remember a few things about her. Again, not a good person. She had diabetes so bad. Diabetes runs in my biological dad's side a lot. Everyone's got it, I think. It's killed a few of them. Which again, like I said, uh, if ever to the point where I'm gonna die because I eat sugar, it's time to go. I guess. I'll say that. But yeah, that's my dad's side. My mom's side, my grandpa Marvin, I didn't know him too well. He died when I was like 2. Everyone dies so young in my family. And my mom died. She was in her mid 40s when she died. About 8 years. Time flies when you're sad and depressed and no family. It goes by pretty quick. And yeah, I didn't know my grandpa Marvin. He died when I was fairly young. He had cancer. My grandma Billy's one of the nicest people on the planet. She married a man named Ron Williams, and they sold all that stuff up here. That's why we had to move, and they sold all their houses, so they moved into McClure, Illinois, because he had a house. And McClure floods all the time. If you didn't know, but that's why we had to move. So when we moved, obviously took me away. They had no choice. I think about it now, and as a kid, I was like, God, it's so far away. From we moved to Wolf Lake, Illinois. I want to say my cousins ended up there too. Yeah, my cousins did end up there. I don't know how or what the story is. I wish I could interview my mom. If I had one interview guest for my podcast, it would be my mother. My grandma wouldn't take it seriously. My grandma would be very difficult to interview. My mom would be very easy to interview, I think. Because towards the end, we had a really good relationship. We were very honest. And again, I think when growing up, she was always worried about being blamed for the life that her kids lived. And it was like, it's not the case. Like, you turn out the way you turn out. It's your choices, right? Grew up poor. We all grew up poor. Kaylee paid off her house early, very good financial wise. Josh makes a lot of money. I make some decent money. The ones that are Travis randomly makes a lot of money is a car dealership, but the ones that struggle for a reason because it's the way they were. I'm not saying it's all your choices. Some of it is your circumstances, but she was so worried about just being a bad mom, and I was like, you're not. There's so many worse moms out there. Look at your husband. He's the worst stepdad for sure. But yeah, we lived in Wolf Lake, and again, that's country. That's country. Nothing, nothing at all down there. We're swimming in creeks. Matter of fact, they used to do a thing. We kind of grew up with our cousins. They're like my brothers and sisters. We're about that close because we grew up together. And we lived in a trailer park, which is not a good sign. And yeah, I mean, so I have my older cousin Kaylee, and then you have me. I think Kaylee's like 3 years older than I am because she was a senior when I was a freshman, and she did not acknowledge me at all. I'll put that out there. But then Josh is 11 months younger than I am. We're a lot closer to him in age. And then it was Brian. Then I had took turns taking having children. And then you had Travis, and then Brianna finished it off. My sister. So they lived in Wolf Lake in the middle of nowhere. Well, what they would do is three of them would work. One of them had to stay home and babysit. If it was one of the men, my uncle Jerry or my shitty stepdad, they're not watching the kids. They're not doing that. I think they didn't do shit. We played on the trampoline. We had Josh had a trampoline, and we'd always jump on the trampoline quite a bit. That's why I got one, and I'm so excited. Used to do front flips and back. I don't know, not back flips. Used to do front flips and different tricks. And we used to jump on in the rain and in the snow and all that stuff. And like the trampoline was our only thing of fun. Besides that, it was watching TV. We didn't have cable, so we'd watch network TV. Like your Saturday morning cartoons was big. Not Nick in the afternoon, but Fox Kids in the afternoon. Back when they cared about poor people now. They oh shit, there's a wasp in here again. Hope it gets out. No, it's a June bug. That's not a wasp. No, that's not. It could be worse. But yeah, we had regular TV. That's why I remember the Saturday nights we'd watch America's Most Wanted. Or it was Cops, and then America's Most Wanted, and then it would say local news, and then it was like something a filler, and then the X Files, and then it was like Tales from the Crypt at Midnight. That's when it all started. These trailers were some were bad. The first one we moved in was a black and white trailer. Then they moved this brown and white trailer in here, and that had a fake fireplace, so we were really doing well then. But I just remember, like, I used to cut slack to my parents, like, oh, they must have really struggled. Like, when I was their age, there's no fucking way I struggled that much. I remember we put aluminum foil on the windows, so when the bus came by, there was aluminum foil on our windows. There's probably a good reason why I don't remember any kid from living in Wolf Lake outside of my cousins. No one wanted anything to do with me at that point. I think it's weirder than that. It's far weirder. Wolf Lake, middle of nowhere. I remember we used to swim in the creek. That was pretty cool. Anna Jonesboro, there's a creek that would sometimes be real low, and there's snakes in it, and frogs and shit, and it's not clean at all. Like my kids, fucking Hurricane Harbor and Six Flags, that's how they went swimming. We went swimming at Trail of Tears that smelled like swamp water because it was swamp water. There was snakes in it all the time. Like we had a shower after we got out of there. We went camping, not because it was fun. We went camping because well, we didn't have a place to live sometimes. Like we had to come up with rent. So like let's go camp for a while. It's cheaper than rent. And yeah, it's I don't. Well, I'm gonna tell you, it might make my parents, my mom. I don't care shit about. I don't give any shit about Kenny. But my mom, it might make her look bad. I understand she tried very hard. I'm not judging her at all. Any of this stuff, but it's kind of funny. So we moved out of Wolf Lake. Again, I don't. Kaylee might know more about it than I do because she was 3 years older than I was. So she was a little older. She probably knows more of the history. But I would like to interview her. So at some point, we're going to do a podcast, an episode, and I'm going to get some answers. Some stuff. We need something this summer. So some point we had to leave Wolf Lake and we moved to McClure where my grandma lived. I don't know what's was with these people. We moved to a fucking junkyard trailer. And maybe you're thinking, Mark, what is a junkyard trailer? Well, I'm glad you asked. This fucking trailer was in the junkyard to get junked and get scrapped, right? It's gonna cease to exist. And these motherfuckers said, just hey, we can live here. No water, we can live here. Electricity, we don't need electricity. It's next to my mom's house, my grandma. My grandma got us off to school. Uh, Shout out to my grandma Billy, amazing person. Some of these people worry about how good the parent. I've never moved my kids into a fucking junkyard, and they got that trailer was so bad, covered in roaches. I lived roaches most of my life until I moved out of myself. We had roaches all the time. It's why if I see any bugs, I'm freaking out. And I'm cleaning the whole house, bleaching everything. I'll never do that ever again. It was pretty disgusting. Roaches and mice. Because it was in the junkyard. We used to go play in the junkyard. We used to go play on this tractor. That was our main toy. We do like Survivor, where we just sit there and hang on the tractor and see how long we can survive on the tractor. Survivor just, I don't know, they just came out. It was like this stranded island. We were stuck on an island. We play on this giant tractor, didn't run. But yeah, it was in the woods. We'd play in the woods. We'd go all over the place. My grandma, it was really nice living next to my grandma and being so close to her movies, though. I really got into that. And then, yeah, we went to a school called Egyptian. No, Shawnee South. I'm getting ahead of myself. Shawnee South. They knew he was poor. The principal knew he was poor because they bought me clothes one time. Although that was kind of odd. Again, I will never sit there and judge my parenting. I'm judging my parents' parenting. But like, I never put my kids in a junkyard. That's all I'm gonna say. Right? I might not be perfect. Might be a little mean. Might be a little strict. Might be a little bit of a jerk sometimes, making fun of Julie because she's so sensitive. But never moved my kids into a fucking junkyard. They always had water. So many times we didn't have water. But then I remember we used to lie to the Salvation Army about our age. When you was remotely, you'd be in line and you'd be like, kind of stay away from your parents. And you'd be like, well, how old are you, sir? And you're like, 11 or 12. And you're close enough. Yep, give me that fucking turkey, dude. I'm gonna make a turkey for the first time in my life. 11, 12 years old, acne all over the place. I'm a late bloomer. I think I shot up that year. There's a weird photo of me being like skinny. I've only been super skinny once in my life. Not even super skinny, just skinny. And I looked absolutely ridiculous. The head was huge. I have a huge head, so it didn't make sense. But yeah, that was McClure. Now let me tell you how we got out of there. I'll be asking Mark what happened to the junkyard trailer. The junkyard trailer's no longer there anymore. I can show you the lot, and I think on Google Earth, and then the lot where my grandma, you can see my grandma's house before that got destroyed. But yeah, they used to flood a lot, and one of those fish with the teeth, the garfish, would swim up in the ditch. Like, don't even touch any frogs anymore. I don't touch any of that shit. And I used to live with these damn things. But yeah, so what happened is, oh, then there was a year that the church saved our Christmas. They must have saw Brian, my younger brother, walking around no shoes, no shirt in the middle of December, and I want to say they pulled this kid and like, hey, little boy, where do you live? Tell us about your family. But in reality, I think it was probably the school. The school had to know we were very poor, wearing the same shit every day, not having a washer, you know, not being able to wash our clothes, the smell of smoke and shit. But this is how I know. This is how I know. This was school looking out for us. So we moved from Wolf Lake to McClure to Thebes, Illinois. Thebes, Illinois is a tiny river town. We played in the river all the time. Down the road, they have a housing complex. The school noticed some bruises on my younger brother because him and my stepdad were out roughhousing, and he got some bruises on him for manhandling the kid. And they're like, they went to investigate, and when these people saw that we were living in a junkyard in a trailer with roaches and rats, they said, "You guys can't live here. Guys can't do it." I remember there was one time where my stepdad walked across the Cape Girardeau Bridge to go get some pizza. It had to be like a 20, 30 mile walk. He did it, and the cops pulled him over, and they when he was crossing the bridge, they came on with pizza because we used to eat whatever. My famous thing was getting ham and putting soy sauce on it and microwaving the shit out of it till it was nice and crispy. And it was like ham jerky almost. Doing the same thing with turkey as well. You get leftover turkey, it would sit there and soak it in soy sauce and fucking microwave the shit out of it till it was nice and dry and like chew on it like it was jerky. That's my specialty. Uh, but yeah, when they found out we was living in the junkyard, they're like, "Yeah, you guys can't live here. Here's food stamps." And they showed my parents how food stamps work. And then they're like, "We're gonna put you in Thebes housing." So we moved in something. It wasn't the project. They called it the projects. It wasn't as bad as the projects. There were some drugs. There wasn't anything hard like murder. Although I did help catch a murderer when I was a child, when I was a kid down there. I'll have to tell that story again one day. But yeah, so we moved to Thebes, and Thebes was fine. It was a predominantly all black school, so it was weird being poor still. But I was like being just different from everybody else, right? I'm a white kid, like the Everclear song "Father of Mine." That's what I was dealing with. Like, where's my real father at? Because my stepfather is a piece of shit. And yeah, it was like, yeah, being just separated from everybody else, not having anything in common with anybody. You know, the other black kids were poor too, but like they weren't white and poor. I did make friends with a few people, and I saw my cousins. I remember like a whole summer I lived at my cousin's house because they had a fun place. And I don't want to tell their story because it was I don't know something. They lived behind a flea market. That's all I'll say. I'll tell some stories we did at the flea market, but like yeah, they had a pretty crazy stuff. And yeah, the Thebes was fun. We used to go down to the river where the river got real low and play on the rocks, and then you had to get off the rocks before the river came back up. A couple times, some kids almost got swept away. There is if you look at Thebes, Illinois, there's a big courthouse overlooking a huge drop. They call it the 100 Stairs. I don't know how high it actually is. I feel like it was forever when I was a child. But the courthouse would have no one watched it. There's no one down there, and we just throw shit off the balcony and watch it fall down the hill and roll. It's really super dangerous. Again, playing in woods, riding our bikes as far as we can ride them. Uh, it was a lot of fun. Really dangerous. I would not want my kids to do that. Right? I would never want my. I made sure my kids had a better life than me, because they don't do the dangerous shit I did. But yeah, and then you know, thieves is fine. They condemn those apartments though. The housing is designed to keep you in housing. It's designed to keep you poor. This is unfortunate too. But then we moved into another housing that was a little Chaffee, Missouri, and we eventually moved out of there into a regular house, but a very small house. But yeah, that's growing up, man. I got some individual stories of that in there, but just like you know, song about the junkyard trailer is so mind-boggling. That'd be the one thing I'd ask my mom if she could come back to life and do a podcast with me. Before she died, I should have did well. I guess podcast wasn't really a thing when she passed away. But yeah, I don't blame any of my mom at least. That pretty. We ended up pretty good, right? That's the one thing where I know my aunt Chelly's still alive. My uncle Jerry passed away, but and Kenny's dead to me. I haven't seen him in almost a decade. So I yeah, those guys, my aunt Chelly and my mom. You know, we had church to save our Christmases uh, twice. Didn't have anything growing up, but we turned out all right. Pretty good. But yeah, that's my stories, guys. My phone is dying. I will continue to record as we march to 100 episodes. So I'll do more episodes, more stories. Keep it going. Thanks, guys.